Hello, welcome to the crash course on the Catalyst Macromancer. But full disclosure, not all builds are made equal, and I think speccing into the Little Big Trouble skill tree might be one of the common mistakes that Macromancers make when trying to build damage. The reason why I want to give you a heads up on this, it's not to waste your time, it's probably to save your time, if anything. Um, as your enemies, as you get to higher levels and you start to overpower, your enemies start to get more and more health and they start to regen their health quicker. And this is where the status effect doesn't keep up with the game mechanics because as they're taking the damage over time, they're also regenerating. So it probably keeps their health stable rather than actually pull it down. If it did percent health damage, it'd probably work a bit differently, but that's not what actually happens. So if you want to get damage from the Necromancer, it comes from the ordered chaos skill tree, and more specifically, it comes from Anarchy. Anarchy is Gaige's only skill that increases her gun damage, and quite significantly here as well. If we put a point into Anarchy and you have to max out Smaller Lighter faster to get to the next tier, and you max out Pre-Shrunk Cyberpunk, that gives you a maximum 400 Anarchy, which equates to 700% gun damage, but you also lose 700% accuracy. So your gun damage will go through the roof, but being able to land your shots reliably goes to crap. You can counter this by putting points into close enough, so all those shots that you miss have a 50% chance to bounce back towards enemies and deal 50% reduced damage. So that's going to help you chunk the enemy's health a lot better than your status effects. Of course, people will say they're using the community mod, which increases the status effect damage and makes it more viable. So people using the community mod might get more benefit out of this build. If you're going to go down the route of the Catalyst, Little Big Trouble, you want to use Catalyst class mods. Max out more pep because it is about applying the status effects to deal damage. If you're not doing that, then you're not getting the most out of this tree. Also max out Myelin. This will increase your shield capacity a little bit, but more importantly give you the shock damage resistance. So end game, if you're going to use this build, you tend to use a Northleet with shock element. So when you're hitting the floor and stuff in front of you, you want to be able to reduce the likeliness that a shock effect will be applied to you. So that shock resistance will really help. Electrical burn will, when you electrocute or shock an enemy, they have a chance to ignite, and that ignite damage will actually be higher than the shock damage, and that is because the ignite damage scales off your shock damage. Increased wires don't talk, that'll also increase your electrical burn damage. Evil Enchantress, so when you kill an enemy, this will increase the damage over time damage. It won't increase the initial hits, just the status effects. So, but it's worth getting if you're trying to deal elemental damage. And Make It Sparkle is a useful skill to have. And now I'm going to go fancy mathematics, so my shields recharge more often and quicker. That'll keep me alive. Unstoppable Force, so having that movement speed will keep you alive as you'll be able to dodge melee attacks, but you'll also be able to get in closer to the enemies so you're landing direct hits more often, and so you'll have better damage output that way. Upshot Robot, so Death Trap, when you get a kill, increases his melee damage and keeps him around so he can soak up bullets for you. And to help with that, Potent as a pony to increase his max health, and Made Stern of Staff to increase his damage reduction, so he can really hang around for as long as he can. 20% cooler, so we can get him out more often, and Sharing is Caring because that shield will keep him alive as well. Get a point into Buck Up. It's a useful skill to have. There's also a nice little exploit if you're into that sort of things where you can make that apply all the time, but I'm not going to tell you how to do that here. And Typecast, Iconoclast, if we max that out, you'll reach your maximum stacks 30% quicker, so that's a real time saver. You've got 1 point to spend. There's not a lot of great options here. I say that because I'm pretty well rehearsed of not reloading my gun when I'm playing my Macromancer, but if you do have a nasty little habit of automatically reloading without thinking, putting a point into Discord will save your stacks. So instead of losing them instantly, this will make them slowly drain until you're able to manually reload your gun again to disable Discord and save those stacks. So that might be the way to go. Some skills to avoid. If you're using the Sham, I'm avoiding Blood-Soaked Shields because the Sham's capacity is quite small. I want that health buffer. So if the shields break, that little bit of health might keep me standing long enough for the shields to recover and for me to recover that health. Death from Above will activate when you don't want it to, and it will drain your stacks quite rapidly, so avoid that skill. Rational Anarchist is short-lived, so you won't get a lot of benefits out of that. The Stare and 1-2 Boom tend to not deal enough damage. You'll also have a hard time hitting the orb to trigger it when you're got maximum Anarchy, so Death Trap will deal more damage if he's just running around consistently meleeing. Interspersed Outburst, this skill is a little bit dodgy. It'll crash your game if you use it against a warrior, so I tend to not use it because of that. And Explosive Clap doesn't deal enough damage. It doesn't scale as you level up. So again, if you're using the community mod, which I'm not, all my guides are for vanilla players, but the mod just makes the game easier, which is why I avoid using it. That might make, the mod does make some of these things more viable, so it probably increases the damage of Explosive Clap to make it more useful to you. Anyway, with equipment, having a Bone of the Ancients that increases your shock damage and cooldown rate will help you pull Death Trap out more often and deal more damage. I'm using the Legendary Catalyst class mod. That's the best mod for this build. I'm also, endgame, you want to use a Northfleet and a Sham. The Sham so you can generate rockets so that you can keep firing the Northfleet, and you don't need to aim with this weapon and it nukes everything, so it's a great way to go. Magic missiles to slag, but I'm also using a slagger. You could use any other slag submachine gun or whatever in place of this. And it's good to have a weapon that's not shock base, so when you come up across an ion loader or something, you can take that out. So that's this build, explained as quickly as I can. For more detail, please look at the guide that's on Steam, the Ultimate Badass Build Guide. And I hope you enjoy your travels. Enjoy.